Hi everyone and welcome back to another maths lesson. Yesterday we focused on fractions of amounts and we were focusing on halves. Today we are going to go back to looking at fractions as shapes, but instead of using halves we are going to be focusing on quarters today. So what you're going to need before we begin the lesson today is some paper, some pencils, possibly a scissors to cut out a few shapes for me, and that is about it for today. So let's begin. So as we begin our lessons most days, we are going to begin with our flashback 4. So please pause the video now as I'm going to go on to the next flashback 4. Okay, so there's 2 for you to complete. This is the first one and then the second one. Don't worry if you cannot print these, please just complete them on a piece of paper and use methods to help you. So this is a bit of think time. Violet has 11 cubes. I have shared cubes into 2 hoops, she said, to find half of 11. There are 6 cubes in each hoop, so half of 11 is 6. The question I want you to think about today is, do you agree with Violet or do you disagree? And can you explain why you think this answer, please? So stop the video now while you are solving this question. So, Violet is not correct. 11 is an odd number, so half of 11 is not 6. Half of 12 is 6, because if you add 6, which is double, then you know it will get to 12. Violet needs to check her answers by counting. So if you looked at the circle at the top, you can see that she has not got 6 in each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in this one. So she has 6 in her first one, but she only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the other. Well, we know when we halve something, they have to be equal. Fantastic. So, this is our true or false statement for today. I know we haven't focused on quarters just yet, but I want you to think about it before we begin. 1/4 of this shape is white. So 1/4 of this shape is white. What do you think quarters might mean is the first thing you should think about. I am now going to go on and solve this with you. So if you'd like to stop the video and keep trying to work it out, that is fantastic. If not, I'm going to go through it on the next page. So it is true. There are 4 equal parts. And as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what do you think a quarter might mean? Well done. A quarter means we are cutting it into 4 pieces. Before, when we did halves, we only put it into 2 pieces. So half is 2 and 1/4 is 4. Fantastic. So 1 part out of the 4 is white, which means it is true. So our problem of the day today. There are 2 people playing a board game. The girl says you have to land on red. I have to land on yellow. Are these board games split into equal parts? That is the first question I want you to think about. And then the second one is, are any of these board games split into quarters? So you've got 3 board games at the bottom. Are they split into quarters? Please stop the video now while you solve this question. I'm going to go through the answers on the next page. So, when you split a whole, so whole is everything, so the whole square here and the whole square here, into 4 equal parts, it is known as a quarter. The boards look different. So as you can see, these have done them in rectangles and these have been cut into squares. They have both been split into equal parts. So as you can see, each section is the same size. And again, with this one, they are all the same size. So as you can see by this image at the bottom, they are split into 4 and each part is coloured in to show you that they are all the same size. And then part B, are any of these board games split into quarters? So Let's have a look at A, this one here. Okay, so this board game is not split into quarters because we can look at the yellow part is a lot bigger than all of the other parts. Let's look at the next one. So you can see down here for this one. These board games are split into 4 equal parts. So you can see the triangles. If I put them all together, they make one square and they are all equal. And it is the same with the second board game here. They all are equal size and they can be put together to represent the square board game. And these are known as quarters. So, again, what does quarters mean? Can you now write an explanation to what is, quarter? I should have changed that. Sorry, Ewan. So an explanation to what is a quarter. Can you show it using pictures? So can you represent it in your own way? You might would like to use some objects to represent it. So a quarter is when you cut something into 4 equal parts. As you can see here, there is 4 equal parts, and each section, if I was to do a square, are all the same size. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I coloured them in different colours, you can see that they are all the same size. And that's what is important. They are all equal. So the key vocabulary for today: fractions, fractions, quarter, quarters, whole, whole. Fantastic. And then ones we are familiar with already: shares by or shared by, equal, the same, equal, the same, unequal, not the same, unequal, not the same. Well done, year one. So this is your activity. I would like you to get your piece of paper now and make a rectangle shape. Riley has a piece of paper. It is a rectangle. He folded it into quarters or 4 equal parts. Could you have folded it in any other way? So is there any other way that we could fold it into quarters to make it equal parts? And as I've put in the bright yellow box at the bottom, you might want to have a couple of pieces of paper to have a try yourself. So stop the video now, and I'm going to go on to the next page and solve the problem. So Riley could have folded it like this instead. So instead of doing it into boxes and made more rectangles, he has done it into these smaller parts. So well done if you got that at home. So the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is to draw these shapes onto a piece of paper or cut them out using a piece of paper yourselves. And can you show me how to make a quarter of each of these 2 shapes? So again, you're going to have to stop the video now while you complete this activity. Fantastic. I'm now going to solve it on the next page. So to make a quarter of this shape, you are going to need to first fold it in half. And that's why I left half at the top, because that is the first step to make a quarter. The next thing you are going to do is to half it again. So if you fold it in half once more, you will have 4 equal parts, like so. And the same thing with the square, you will fold it in half and then fold it in half again, which will then give you 4 equal parts, which make a quarter. Quarter. Fantastic. Now it is your turn to do it independently. You are now going to make quarters of each of these shapes for me, please. So again, you might want to draw them out, or you might want to cut them out onto a piece of paper and then fold them to see how many different ways you could make quarters. I would suggest using different pieces of paper every time you fold it. So you don't use the same piece of paper to keep folding it over and over and over again to test if you could do it in a different way, because then you'll have lots of lines on your piece of paper. So once you've done it once, make it again on a different piece of paper. So following on from that activity, what you are going to do now is I have made a table for you, and there are some pictures at the bottom. They've already divided them into quarters, and some are not cut into quarters. Can you decipher which ones are split into quarters and which ones are not? And glue them in the right place. If you do not have access to tapestry or you don't have access to print, then you could just draw them into a table yourself. And then finally for today, there is a reasoning problem at the end. Maisie and Holly are comparing shapes. Maisie says, my shape shows quarters because the 4 parts are all equal. Whereas Holly says, my shape shows quarters because it has 4 parts. Can you explain who is correct and explain why you think this? And that is the end of our lesson for today. Please come back tomorrow for your last lesson of the week on fractions. Bye, year 1.